Another pressing story, U.S. President Donald Trump has been sued by a coalition of more than 20 Democrat states as well as civil rights groups over his executive action which ends birthright citizenship in the United States. Several lawsuits have come up within hours of Trump taking office and passing that executive order. He is hoping that this will reshape American immigration, but that has brought the debate of the fate of millions of immigrants, particularly Indian immigrants who are either on a work visa like an H-1B or even a student visa like an F-1 or F-2 visa, and their families, and particularly the impact that it would have on children during their stay in the United States. So as he has stirred up this citizenship debate, this birthright citizenship debate, Donald Trump is trying to make nice on the one hand and yet be tough on the other. He has backed the H-1B program, which is a temporary work visa for techies, a large part of it which goes to Indian techies. Trump has said that he very much likes competent people coming into the United States and therefore he does not want to stop the H-1B visa program. He also added that the H-1B visa program will be used to get the best of people into the United States, but at the same time, he has taken away a critical incentive for H-1B folks, particularly young people who go into the US, who plan to start a family. He's taken away birthright citizenship. But this is Donald Trump speaking at the Oval Office on the H-1B controversy.
I like both sides of the argument, but I also like very competent people coming into our country, even if that involves them training and helping other people that may not have the qualifications they do. But I don't want to stop. And I'm not just talking about engineers. I'm talking about people at all levels. We want competent people coming into our country. And HB1, I know the program very well. I use the program. Maitre d's, wine, experts, even waiters, high quality waiters.
All right. So Trump, on the one hand, says he welcomes H-1B and that he's employed a lot of people on H-1B. But on the other hand, he is removing birthright citizenship for kids who will be born in the United States starting the 19th of February 2025. What is birthright citizenship? Is it just the US that follows it? What about other countries around the world who follow birthright citizenship? And if he were to remove that, if this stands the test of law, remember there are a whole bunch of lawsuits challenging this legally, but if it were to stand the test of law, then what happens to tens of thousands of Indian American families, particularly those who are on H-1B visas and their children? Here's a detailed explainer.
Our country is built on immigrants, and the reason we have birthright citizenship is to encourage people to move here.
I feel almost like it's un-American. I mean, we've been a country that has welcomed people.
Birthright citizenship in the United States is established by the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which was ratified in 1868. It says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. This principle, which is known as jus soli, or the right of the soil, grants automatic citizenship to anyone who is born on U.S. soil, regardless of the immigration status of their parents. But now, US President Donald Trump has passed an executive order which will revoke birthright citizenship, particularly targeting children who are born in the US to non-US citizen parents. His executive order, titled Protecting the Meaning and Value of American Citizenship, hopes to limit citizenship to those whose parents are either lawful permanent residents or US citizens. The proposed changes would affect not just undocumented immigrants, but also legal immigrants, including many who are on H-1B visas or other temporary visas. The Indian American community, which numbers over 5 million in the United States, according to the latest figures by the US Census Bureau, will be particularly badly affected by this change. Of these 5 million, about a third, which is close to 2 million, are those who are born in the US, which means they are legal American citizens. Another 2/3, a large majority of the Indian Americans in the US, are either naturalized citizens who've lived there for a number of years, or those who are on permanent residency, like the ones who have green cards and who can legally work in the United States. But a large number are also on temporary work visas. Many Indian nationals are H-1B visa holders who may have children who were born in the US after they migrated to the US. If Donald Trump's order takes effect starting next month, then the future children of these immigrants will no longer automatically receive American citizenship. This could discourage Indian families from immigrating or staying in the United States because this would complicate the legal status of their children. It could also affect their future opportunities, particularly when it comes to those kids going to college. There are anywhere between 350 to 500,000 Indian techies who are currently in the United States on an H-1B or some other form of temporary work visa. For Indian tech professionals on H-1B planning to have children in the United States, this executive order by Donald Trump is a significant challenge. So any child who's born after the 19th of February 2025 would not gain automatic citizenship. That would also complicate their access to benefits, whether it is in-state tuition when they go to college or even qualify for federal aid for education. Now, this is a big factor which helps immigrant families, particularly those of Indian techies who are on work visas, because college education, as you know, in the US is a very expensive affair. Now, this change could also lead to many families reconsidering their plans for having children in the US and potentially opting for countries which have a more favorable immigration policy.
Sadly, this order and many others come as no shock. Trump is following through on a campaign promise. Today, I'm also following through on a promise to take action if Trump violates the law and infringes on our rights, on your rights. As he did today with what is, frankly, an un-American executive order. I have one message for President Trump. I'll see you in court.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
The other thing that Trump's executive action has done is that any child who was born to non-citizen parents upon turning 21 could then legally file to bring their parents and make them legal citizens of the United States. Trump's executive action nips that in the bud as well. As of now, more than 20 states in the United States and a couple of cities have filed lawsuits against Trump's executive order. It does indicate that there is a strong legal opposition which could challenge the implementation of this executive order. Legal experts say that any attempt to revoke birthright citizenship through an executive order is likely to face significant hurdles in court because of constitutional protections that are offered by the 14th Amendment. In the United States, and as per US law, an amendment of the Constitution can only be revoked if it is passed by 2/3 majority in both houses of Congress. A president, through mere executive action, cannot change or revoke a constitutional amendment. The principle of birthright citizenship was upheld in the 1898 Supreme Court case of United States versus Wong Kim Ark, which confirmed that children who were born in the US to immigrant parents, regardless of their immigration status, are indeed US citizens. Now, the gentleman, Wong Kim Ark, was born in San Francisco in 1873 to Chinese immigrant parents who were laborers. In 1895, he made a visit to China, after which he was denied re-entry back into the United States under what was then prevalent and called the Chinese Exclusion Act. As per the Chinese Exclusion Act, Chinese laborers were prohibited from immigrating and barred from becoming US citizens. Wong argued in his case that as a person who was born in the United States, he was entitled to citizenship under the 14th Amendment. The Supreme Court, back in 1898, ruled in a 6-2 majority decision that Wong Kim Ark was indeed a US citizen. And ever since, anyone who is born in the United States is given automatic citizenship and constitutional protection under the 14th Amendment. But it's not just the United States. There are many countries around the world which follow the principle of jus soli, or the rights of the soil, which automatically grants citizenship to anybody who's born on their territory. In North America itself, other than the United States, Canada too has similar birthright citizenship. So any child who's born on Canadian soil is granted Canadian citizenship. In addition, in Latin America, countries like Argentina, Brazil, and Mexico also follow the jus soli principle and grant automatic citizenship. Now, in Europe, in contrast, there are many countries who grant citizenship based on the nationality of the parents rather than the location of the birth of the child. Germany, for example, primarily uses a principle called jus sanguinis, which means that at least one parent has to be a German citizen before the child can become a German citizen. Similarly, Japan too grants citizenship based on Japanese nationality of at least one parent. China too follows a strict policy of jus sanguinis. But many countries have also reformed their birthright citizenship laws. Many countries like Australia, for example, it has shifted from unconditional birthright citizenship to a conditional one. The condition is that at least one parent has to be a citizen or a permanent resident. This law was changed in 1986. In the UK, which previously offered birthright citizenship, has now tightened its rules, particularly for children of non-citizen parents. Either one parent has to be a British citizen or a permanent resident of Britain. Or a Britain-born child can then eventually become a British citizen later, either if they live in Britain till the child is 10 years old, or either if the two parents becomes a legal settler in Britain in the interim period. Now, overturning a constitutional amendment through executive order in America is highly unlikely and perhaps not even feasible. Such a change, like I said, would require a constitutional amendment process involving 2/3 majority from both houses of Congress. Not just that, it then further has to be ratified by at least 3/4 of all state legislatures. Birthright citizenship has been a cornerstone of American civil rights for the last 150 years. It ensures inclusivity and equal protection under the law for every single US citizen. Trump's proposal to end this practice could significantly impact millions, particularly those within the Indian American community and those who are H-1B visa holders and their children. Now it is over to the courts of America to deliver their verdict and for millions of immigrant families to deliver justice. Let's go across to CNN News 18. Sanjay Suri, who's joining us live from Washington, D.C. He was there a couple of days ago for the Trump inauguration. Sanjay, so this whole thing about Trump's executive action scrapping or proposing to scrap birthright citizenship, just how much of a concern is that amongst the Indian American community, particularly H-1B visa holders, young couples who may be planning to have children in the near future?
Well, this is going to have a very long-term consequence, and also in the immediate, because there's a very large number of H-1B visa holders who are of Indian origin. In fact, they are Indian citizens. And let's bear in mind that almost 3 in 4 H-1B visa holders are Indians. The companies in the US can't have enough of them. They are simply superb at their job, excellent with innovation and also enterprise. So they are much sought after, and they are really feeding the US growth at the cutting edge. Now, when they see that any child born to parents after February the 19th will no longer automatically be a US citizen, that's going to be a very strong disincentive, to put it mildly. The fact is that after February the 19th, a child will not automatically get citizenship unless either of the parents is a US citizen or a green card holder. So this is a consequence that will be felt in the immediate, but also for a lot of aspiring Indians who are planning to come to the US on such visas and take up such jobs, and these jobs are on offer. They'll have to think twice because their families can't settle there. They'll have to just come with a view to going back. It's like going to the Gulf and going back. America was meant to be different.
Sanjay, the other thing, of course, is this is an executive order. I believe already 24 states have gone in legal challenge against this. Some cities have, some individuals, including one mother who's expectant over the next few months, has also challenged this legally. Are they on sound legal footing?
Well, they certainly believe they are, and there are 2 of these major cases. The big one is in Massachusetts. The other one has been filed in New Hampshire, and that arises from the case that you just spoke of. Their plank is the 14th Amendment. Under the 14th Amendment, a right to citizenship is guaranteed at birth, or so they say. The government says that this is not a blanket right, that this is something where exceptions certainly will be possible. And it's all about the interpretation of the 14th Amendment of the US Constitution. And that's going to be an argument that's going to be heard at some length now, both in the court in Massachusetts and in New Hampshire, and without doubt, eventually it will go to the Supreme Court. So this is a matter of interpretation. The government, in passing the executive order, seems to have done some sort of homework, and they do believe that they are within their rights to cancel this right. On the other hand, there are a lot of groups who are going to challenge it and have begun to challenge it, and this is led by a number of Democrat-led states, and also you have Washington, D.C. and San Francisco and some others joining in that action.
And finally, Trump, all through his campaign and this whole issue about immigration, he had always made a distinction between what he called illegal immigrants, undocumented workers, and legal ones. In this case, by ending birthright citizenship, even for children of legal, people who are there legally with temporary work visas or whatever, how is he blurring the distinction between the two? And at the same time, just last night, he had pretty favorable things to say about the H-1B, saying that he's used it in his own sort of businesses and he welcomes it and he wants more competent people to come into the US. How do you square these two, seemingly contradictory positions?
Well, to tell you the truth, Zaka, they don't square. Trump seems to make statements that don't quite square with one another. On the one hand, as you point out, he has been saying he's supportive of the H-1B visa. He believes that it does a lot to put the US at the cutting edge of innovation and that he would welcome such migrants. He said he's making the distinction between this and illegal migration. In his intent, he no doubt is, but the consequences of this new action will be that it will undercut the stated intentions to include the best from around the world in the US innovation and business enterprises through the H-1B visa. And of course, when we see from around the world, it's Indians who are at the forefront of getting these H-1B visas. On the other hand, when people realize that their families can't really be in the US as US citizens, be here legally for any length of time, they're not going to be very keen to come and take up such offers. They will look elsewhere, and there'll be people around the world who will be very keen to take them up and to include them in their workforce. So a lot of intentions, a lot of statements, they simply do not square.
All right, Sanjay, we'll leave it at that. We'll see how this plays out, both for Indian techies, a lot of them are H-1B visa holders. Prospective children, of course, will get affected because up until now, they would get automatic U.S. citizenship under the Birthright Citizenship 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which Trump, through his executive action, has now declared null and void.